All right, it's already recording. I just need you to pop up.
Still waiting.
Well, I'm in, you're not. Where's Justin?
What's here?
Hello.
Hi, pretty lady. How are you?
I'm trying to figure out how I can share my screen up to the TV here.
No. All right. I'm turning my camera off.
Okay.
Actually, I'm leaving since you're on.
You're good.
Are you host?
Click on that. Says,
Now you're host.
I'm host.
Here's the, and then in conclusion.
Recordings in process.
We made an executive decision, by the way, which we will fill you in on after the training is over. Do you think I need,
You did touch it.
do you think I need to fill it in, Tim?
It's very.
Do you think I put the microphone on?
I don't think so. We usually don't.
But
Because they'll touch things.
What? Hi. Nice to see you. Hello. Welcome. Hello. Hi.
Oh, all right.
Chris. Hello. Hello.
second back here.
Today was not one of the 3 sunny days allotted for this year.
Hey, Margaret, can you hear us?
So where we-
Yes, I can.
Say something, Margaret.
I can hear you.
Good, thank you.
You're welcome.
Is that Christy?
Yes.
Response not done.
There she is.
Christy, all they can see is you.
What more do they want to see?
Oh,
I guess I can look out.
Yeah, let me figure it out before you go that far.
hey, Michael, I'm gonna mute you, all right?
Borough.
No.
Yes, yes.
But they are in the process of a zoning review because so much of the zoning doesn't make sense. So if you look at that neighborhood, all right, none of those uses are allowed under the current zoning. So the zoning office is like, come on, you can't have all these non-conforming uses. None of those uses. No, those things were in existence whenever they did the zoning.
Hey, should we be hearing this?
She's gonna repeat it several times, I'm
Meetings that are
sure.
required to do.
Meeting hasn't started yet.
So, it's better off to join if you want. credit. We do one a month, but we can do more than one at one office. It's just whoever signs up first. And we'll be talking as this continues because of the relation of power.
So
So,
$40 if you join the association, $50 if you don't.
If you
With
want the
credit.
credits.
Or
If you
the-
just want to have your head stuffed with information, that's
or
great.
zero.
Can we hold, there's still people coming in.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
instead of repeating this 26 times, let's
Yeah.
hold it
But you have
till,
to be in person, right, for the credit? Is that what you're saying?
That's
So,
true.
Okay, so you need,
There are membership forms back
Okay.
there, or we can take checks, credit card, whatever.
you share that,
Is that your?
No, hold
maybe
on.
some chairs out.
We're trying to
No,
get
you don't have to be in person, but we need to have a membership at or the cash or the check to be able to give you the search.
Justin,
And I'm
get you
sure
up
the
there.
person will be able to tell us who signed on and who isn't.
okay.
Okay?
Zoom meeting.
I apologize. 14 credits now.
Every 2 years.
Every 2 years, okay.
Next year. Trust me, you'll all be getting an email
That's
soon.
right, that's
the
right.
requirement. I got you. We renew on even, but you can start. Yeah, but you can start taking them now for renewal next year.
They're due in May 2024, May 31st, 2024.
Correct.
And so how do we know that these apply? Oh, they're approved.
We would have to run it through pump service because the membership form that I've given out is a hybrid. The answer
I want
is
all
yes.
my stuff in one pocket.
Yes, the answer is yes, and then it would be a logistic nightmare for me.
Oh, no, I don't.
We know how to do that.
It's, we have to have another meeting with Power to get some of the detailed work done. But I thought it was a great idea, and he thought this up for you guys. Because we've been doing these seminars for years, and
We've been to some of your other sessions during continuing ed, and how you folks stay away for them, I don't know.
And this is good bait to get people here to learn things.
Should learn? Okay.
Should learn.
Oh,
Should
I
learn.
thought I heard should.
No, no. No, we need to know this.
what the main thing it does is it empowers you to make more money. True, and not be afraid of septic and get to close it. Because we're not here to hurt anybody, we're here to help. We can only help is like, you know, and that's what I'm gonna do my introduction just on the setting up of an inspection, which is kind of extensive to make it go smoothly. Not to say that we can't go keep going back in the end, but it really helps. You know, some of the information. And then there's a lot of weird stuff, like the name of our business is Pump Services, and we don't pump septic tanks. Now, my father-in-law is Royce is a pump expert, if you would, he installed pumps, and 40 years ago, my father-in-law, Jefferson, just named the business Pump Services. And we can't change it. You won't find a website on it. I think Royce has even taken away my business card ordering, because we work truly on a referral basis, and we're busy. So I'm not bragging about that, because it's, you know, it's one or the other, you know, keeping up with it. And I can officially introduce myself when this comes up, but I am a certified inspector with the National Organization of NOW. So we are no longer Power Up affiliated,
PSMA.
PSMA affiliated, we're
We are
promoting
Power
Power. Thank you. See? So we're gonna have some fun. I won't say this in the seminar, but I was so angry when I was taking my first power up, no, my first PSMA test, because I had gone out and filled with him for 4 years, every day, every job, before I even went to class. And I came out at lunchtime and I said, you have not taught me this more information needed. It's like 1/3 the test. I don't get it. I said, what's up with that? He said, we're not that stupid. That was the answer on that day. But boy, have I learned in the last 10 years since that day of why that's so important to get to the conclusion if you can, and be legally allowed to give recommendations. Because I hate walking around like Helen Keller. I hate it. And that's all it does. It keeps spinning and spinning and spinning. And forgot about wasting people's money. And one of the reasons that I'm passionate about doing the inspection business is to get people housed.
Yeah.
Because truly being housed rather than not, no matter where you're at in your life, is better if that's what you want to do. Having been a single girl renting when it wasn't rent like this, always had a roommate, if not two. I really wouldn't have wanted to live on my own. I could never just have one job because it was so outrageous just to pay for someplace I wasn't even gonna be. So, as you well know.
Okay, it's a minute past. We're gonna go ahead and get started here. Are we off mute?
We are off.
Can you see me? I'm not the important one here, though. I just wanted to introduce Lisa and Royce Jefferson. They have been a great resource for me for years. And before Royce and Lisa worked with Nate Jefferson, who has always been great about educating me and us about what he's doing, how and why. Not just going out, doing testing and saying yes or no, but filling us in as to a little bit more about the processes at work when dealing with septic systems. As we come out of this crazy market where a lot of inspections kind of fell by the wayside, I think it's really good to re-emphasize that we are all about protecting our clients and giving our clients options. So it's important to know the how and the why, not just the what. So let's learn some more about septic systems. And Lisa and Royce, take it away. Let us know if you need
Hi.
anything.
Thank you, Justin. I was very excited to get his phone call right before Christmas to ask for this summit. So I am Lisa Jefferson. I am Vice President of Pump Services. Royce Jefferson is President of Pump Services and my husband. So what we do is inspections. Royce has a whole nother side of the business where he does repairs, and we do water draw testing and take it to lab. But I want you to know how to contact us. So the easiest thing to do is know my cell phone number, which is interesting, which is on their business card, because we work on a referral basis. So my cell phone number is area code 717-503-9277. You can call or text that number. Generally, I can answer, and I will answer. And even if I'm on site, if there's any way I can answer and just say, I'll get back to you, that is the quickest way to contact either one of us. Royce's cell phone is the last road to go to because he can't hear it most of the time. He's working on a flip phone. I just got him a new one. It's a first responder, and we're not sure if it's broken already. And it's titanium tested, so I don't know what to say. At least it rings. That's better than the last one. We do have an office line, which is a landline. I'm going to give you that number: 717-541-1025. You can leave a message there anytime, and it'll be picked up. You cannot email to that number. You cannot text to that number. So our email for both of us, for the entire company, and where it has to go through, is roycejefferson@yahoo.com. ROYCEJEFFERSON@yahoo.com.
Yahoo or AOL?
Yahoo, ROYCE Jefferson is not case sensitive at yahoo.com. Why is that important? Because everything comes into the business and then he directs it out to me. So if it's an inspection, it comes over to me. Why is that important? Because we're always checking and rechecking each other's work. So that's the three ways, but like I said, the best way is to call my cell phone or text me. Because a lot of people will try to call Royce and we can't hear the phone because he's on site with excavation, whatever going on. He always checks in with me at least 2 times a day. That means when he calls me, I can ask the question and I can call you back. All right. So one of the things I wanted to bring forward today is how and what is needed to request an inspection for the best and fastest results, which is what you're looking for, and to avoid problems on site. So the first thing is, if you call my cell phone or email a request, that's the fastest way. The email works really nice because then that way, if we're cell phone to cell phone, we can hear each other. The buyer's agent is the best to request. It is always the best to request. Even if they just call and give me a heads up that the buyer's going to be calling, because I don't know what communication has happened between the buyer and the agent. I absolutely need a correct address. I know that may sound rudimentary, but we've had road or street or incomplete, wrong zip code. Why it's even more important is we have to get the township right, because the townships have their own arrangements with how they do things, as you well know.
And some of your locations up in, say, Upper Perry County, the roads don't even exist on GPS.
Mhm.
It's been fun trying to follow GPS to say, those are roads.
Thanks. So if
Hold on.
When you repeat the cell phone number, somebody will.
yes, 717-503-9277. That is the same cell phone number since 1996. I will not change that cell phone number under any circumstances unless, God forbid, they wouldn't. If you want us to be in contact with your buyer, I'm happy to do that, to get payment arrangements or to take the request. But I want to know you're in communication, because Royce ran into a bad scene where the buyer's agent did not communicate with the buyer, and we were ready to demo up a yard unnecessarily. So it's important.
Sometimes these things go sideways and there's collateral damage. We try not to be in the middle of it.
One of the things that we always ask the buyers, because when we are requested for inspection, unless it's a pre-inspection, and we'll get to that. So from the buyer agent's perspective, we are working for you. Even if you are on the other end of the side of if you're the buyer's agent and you're the listing agent, you're in the same exact office, you're sitting next to each other, stuff, we're working for the buyer's agent. And all communication goes to the buyer's agent, and then the buyer's agent shares it with the seller's agent. And that gets a little sticky the further I get into this and get to know everybody, because the seller's agents will call and go, why didn't you call me, Lisa? I said, because we're working for the buyer's agent. So we just need to have, just so that I stay on board, I stay professional and show you the same amount of respect when you're on the buyer's end.
Hey, real quick.
Yeah,
If, like Royce said, you almost got into a situation where you're gonna demo up a yard. You're operating off of the direction of the buyer's agent, correct?
Correct.
So if the buyer's agent says do it, you're out there with some machinery.
yep,
So as a buyer's agent, you gotta make sure that everything's been communicated properly and signed and agreed to in writing with the seller before you give anybody the thumbs up to go out there and do work. Just my
It
little
was
caveat.
just by chance, Royce was on site. He got there early. The excavation equipment was coming. And just by chance, the buyer showed up. I don't know. It was like Father of the Bride with the wrecking ball. It was like that close.
Now, just for edification, this was not a repair. This was to dig open a tank that was 5.5 feet down. which is not something that you want to do by hand. So we had arranged for the excavator to be there, and then, as it turned out, wasn't necessary. But that's a different story in the long run.
Very. Does anybody recognize Thomas Kincaid? The style of that? This is very charming, Thomas Kincaid. It would have looked like a mistake. Thomas Kincaid.
Oh, you're talking
Thomas
about that
Kincaid.
one down
Yeah,
Lewisburg.
Thomas Kincaid would have been like completely wiped out and it would have been like a mud pit. It would have been terrible. Anyway, so if your buyers want to attend the inspection, we encourage them to. However, have them schooled, not like, you're gonna be working with them and know what the level of common sense is. I've had people show up in high heels in snow. I've had people show up with no jackets. I carry a whole extra box of clothes and everything for the street, you know? Do not bring children that are running around. It's dangerous. Do not bring pets, okay? So they have to be accustomed to outside and understand that. I know that sounds rudimentary, but I ran into it too many times. We do expect payment at the time of service. Some of the agents, and particularly with Dad, when we go on the HUD, in rare exception, and that has to go through him, an established relationship, we cannot go on the HUD. We have to have payment arrangements at the time of service for a couple of reasons. Number one, we subcontract our pumpers, if you're not familiar with that. That means I'm subcontracting you. And we absolutely make sure they get paid. And I decided when I came on board, whatever, 15 years ago, that I would like to get paid too if I work. Because man, it wasn't an easy road to get trained. So anyway, and now that we're on that subject, our inspection fees as of 2023 for a regular inspection are $350, okay? And for a hydraulic load, it's $250, which makes the total on a vacant house $600. I'll get back to that, and then I have a couple of points on that. Pumping, I can't say for sure what the pumping costs are going to be because it goes by gallon. Most of the pumpers today, and with inflation and whatever, and that's their own businesses, they are less expensive than the big outfits. I can tell you that. Is running about $250 to $300 per 1,000 gallons. That's January 2023, and subject to change upon whatever needs to be done on where the inflation is.
How many gallons did you say? For
For
1,000.
1,000 gallons. Okay, back to if they want to attend. If your buyer wants to attend, and you are, I was told by like maybe the seller's agent, okay, the seller won't be a problem. Well, I want to make sure they're not, because here's something else that just happened. I'm 5 foot tall. I'm very nice. I'm extremely personable. I can know your life story in 5 minutes, but I am working for that buyer. And with that seller on top of me, yep, and telling me everything that's not wrong, it obstructs the ability for me to do my job.
More
Accurate-
importantly, it surprises the hell out of the seller's agent when they get a failing report, when the seller told them that there is absolutely nothing wrong. Don't believe your seller.
But
please.
at the same time, the sellers have gotten up in my face so bad that I'll say something to the effect of, okay, we have 2 houses on the same septic. We've got 5 bedrooms. We've got a 500-gallon tank that was below proper operating level. When I get the report and hand it to the buyer's agent, I'll be sure to let them know to share this with you, because we need to talk about if it's going to be grandfathered, is this under regulation? I will say everything correctly without telling them anything for certain, because I can't until I run it by him. And I do look up townships and stuff and and then they try to take a hold of the buyer sometimes. So I don't know where we're at with COVID actually restricting us from asking the sellers to leave or not. Okay. So, but, if I have to, I will leave the site and call the inspection, because I had it happen 3 times. Won't let it happen before. Yeah, because I'll come running out to the car and start dying. Or one guy tackled me and went running to the buyer and took her. she was calling the
It was-
agent.
Very rainy and probably slippery, so we'll give him the notion that he tripped and took.
I was
her out.
glad I had 3 brothers, and I know how to fall. I was not happy. Anyway. So the listing agent's name and phone number, this is important stuff. I'm gonna speed it up.
We'll get
Yeah,
to it.
okay. I'm gonna introduce you in a minute. Go ahead. All right. The listing agent's name and phone number. You won't believe how hard that is to get. Until I get the listing agent's name and phone number, I cannot get approved pumper, which means your inspection moves absolutely zero nowhere unless you approve the pumper and then got to take responsibility for the payment if it's objective. So that's where the big obstacle comes. With at least getting it scheduled. Vacant or occupied. I have run into this in the last 6 months at least 5 times, and I thought that's the second. It's pretty easy to identify. Is somebody living there or are they not? If no one resides in the home, that means it's vacant. If the home is vacant for 7 days, I have to hydraulically load. Then becomes the objection of the money, then becomes the objection even furthermore. Well, you're gonna run water in the house. No, I'm gonna dump a swimming pool on it, charge the seller $1,000 in failure inspection. You do not want a water truck. Unless it's absolutely critical, like a burnout, you're starting to rebuild. So,
Why is that?
because it stirs everything up. It dumps on.
We're trying to have a stimulation of normal operating conditions. And if you take 500 gallons of water and you drop it in the tank in under a minute, I've never heard of a 500-gallon flush toilet. But there's always a first for something.
Take a picture, put some bananas in it, put some other debris in it, let it settle to the bottom, and then dump the same exact size picture on top of it really fast. And watch what happens. The whole idea is the design of the
That's
system.
collateral damage. Go on.
All right. So vacant or occupied. Are the lids at surface? Extremely important because identification of the tank is extra money and digging is extra. And digging cannot be done by hand if it's feet deep. And I don't dig at all because you won't be able to afford me. It'd be ridiculous. So that means, sorry, what's the difference of that? Is there?
By reg, they have to be within 12 inches of surface. We have encountered them, as I was saying earlier, 5 feet deep,
Mhm.
but typically they're usually between 2 and 3.
If
If
they're,
they're not at reg.
on rare occasion, we run into this more often than I thought we ever would. If a fence needs to be removed to get a pump truck in to pump you, or to do the absorption area, we're not a fence company. Professional fence company needs to come out, remove that and replace it. Or you have to say, the seller has to say, rip the fence off, we don't want it back. That may be possible. We are also not a landscaping company when we're on that note. If he has to put a tank in or something, we grade it. It's not professionally landscaped unless, you know, they can subcontract that. It is, again, it's extremely much faster to get on the schedule with our preferred pumpers. That's not because I'm in a networking group. That's because these are the guys I work with that I trust, that are locally owned and operated, dependable, and not gonna throw any tomfoolery down on me with collusion or trying
And
to.
plus, because we guarantee their payment, they have a tendency to respond to us.
Who are your preferred?
In
It all
every
depends on
area.
the areas.
We have,
Give me an area that you're asking. about.
Harry.
Harry, George Martin, Advanced Septic. Practically the only 2 up there anyway. Won't use G&T Underground, sorry.
okay. So, and if somebody goes on the naughty list, I don't make that decision. That is made by the president. Because I actually thought.
And I hold a grudge very well.
I actually thought like 15 years ago, I said, Royce, we gotta start trouble with everybody. Like, can't we just work this out? I'm moving, but this is important. So the MLS and the combo code, we are not on Supra or Centra. So.
Right.
Central, yeah, sorry. I have 1 tooth out of 9 that I've had working. I'm sorry. 1 more to go. Reason for entering the home. This comes up all the time. Because we have to do an interior inspection of the plumbing. That means that it all has to be connected into the septic into the septic system. We have to make sure there's no leakage or seepage. There's a lot that goes on inside. And if I have to run lines because the lines are buried within the walls of the foundation, within the walls and the foundation, I gotta stop all the water in the house, wait, start with one spigot, see if it enters. Takes an hour to do a house if necessary. So alarm box. If it is a pressure dose system with a pump, the alarm box and the float are so much more important than people ever think. They are critically important. And hang a good float doesn't take a lot, but you'd be surprised how often it's not. It completely identifies when it's going to stop the water and then release it into the mound. It also is going to let you know if there's a problem. When that alarm goes off, at the point of contact where the alarm box is going off, you can shut it off, stop using water immediately as much as possible in the house. You got about 1 day and you got to get somebody out there. And from one person that owned a home prior to maybe another person owning a home that had a pump go out and not tend to it quickly, it can be, it's like the stain that never goes away. It causes so many problems, and I'll get into that more. But that's another reason why I need to be in the house. Pumping history and when was the last pump replaced? That is critically important. I don't know. A pump has a life of an average, and let me see if I'm right this time, 17 years. The price of pumps have doubled in like the last 10 years.
In the last year.
In the last year?
Yeah.
Okay. No, it's wrong, sorry. And then if I could find a fuse box, you'd be surprised how hard it is to find fuse boxes sometimes because people hide them. But I need to know if it's a 110 or a 220. I also need, I'm almost done. All right,
Oh, really?
Yep.
30 years Mary Kay, in case everybody was wondering.
okay. So, well, these are details that
Come on.
for somebody, this is the year built.
Oh, that's. important.
Don't, please, would you please go in the closet so I know?
No,
Okay, the year built. If the original build date, not the date that additions have been put on, and not the date of a rebuild on a burnout. If you're rebuild, if you got the SCO.
crossing too many lines.
What's a burnout?
If the house burns to the ground and you have decided that you're going to rebuild, you have 1 calendar year to the day to get your permits and rebuild on that same site without doing anything to the subject. Now you go 1 year and a day, you're subject to revamp, revise, rebuild. So you have 1 year. That comes important later, please.
With power up. One of the reasons why it's nice to be a member or always go to Royce instead of, is there anybody here that has been trained to call a township and carry on to get results? That is a very bad idea. All the SCOs, all the townships are different. They're all overloaded and they have to be handled with kid gloves or else you go to the bottom of the list, and I'm not kidding you for a second. So the only other things I have here are baby wipes
Oh, yeah.
are absolutely horrible and destructive under all circumstances, municipality as well as on septic system. They are not flushable. There was a class action lawsuit again to get this reversed, and then COVID happened, so I don't know where we're at with that, and I don't have time to go and advocate and bring and grassroots that right now. But baby wipes, throw them in the garbage. Throw them in the garbage. No chemicals that are real harsh, no bleach, no garbage disposal. The reason garbage disposal is hard in the septic system is they weren't meant to digest food.
No,
Like, okay,
you want me to correct that now or no?
correct it.
All right, it's because the acid content in the vegetables is so severe that if you do a lot of garbage disposal, it'll eat the wall of your tank. Next.
And the entire system wasn't meant to digest that. Thank you for correcting. This is fun, isn't it? Antibacterial soaps are horrible on a septic system. And they have been overloaded and dumped on like crazy.
During the age of COVID, that's a hard thing to hear. But the septic system is kept operating by the bacteria that's in the ground. You throw antibacterial anything in there, has a tendency to kill the bacteria in the ground. Your system has a tendency to go belly up.
Okay, so meds. We are
No,
nationally
no,
certified.
You move on, that's not for you.
Okay, not for me. So
No.
he's gonna mention filters. He's going to mention about that, right? Because he's got one here. And then the last one,
Ah, yeah, quit.
and this is, and I'll save the best for last here because this is kind of funny. You do not roll heavy equipment that's not including a lawnmower. You can take a lawnmower over a sand mound or drainage field, but not heavy equipment like you would with trees out. You shouldn't have any bushes or landscaping because
I know.
any bushes or landscaping because of root infiltration. When my father-in-law said landscaping is the work of the devil, and I'm like, he is just so grouchy. Yeah, this is like week one when I was bringing, all the roots are bad, but this is the most funny. Actually, not real funny. But why do we not use our sand mound for anything? The worst I've ever seen is I saw 3 gravestones for a pet cemetery. We definitely do not decompose our dead animals through our sand mound system, ever. So on that note, thank you very much. And this was just a general overview, and I apologize for the seasoned veterans in the house, but we'll get into more specialized classes as we'll talk about. Royce Jefferson, president.
Thanks. Regardless of how you may know us, you don't know us as that today because we're presenting from Power for anybody who's interested. We are able to give continuing ed units based on your membership, or if you're just going to pay out of pocket because for whatever reason you don't want the extra card in your pocket. Whatever. It's $40 a year for Power, and we can have as many as 4 to 8 seminars, in which case you get 2 credit hours per. That would, and we try to be fairly amusing. At least it's better than the one seminar I saw that the guy was talking about this falling in the chimney. I was asleep in 10 minutes. That was pretty impressive. I have a hard time falling asleep. Anyway, my name is Royce Jefferson, and I'm the Bosley Hair Restoration spokesperson. Good, got a laugh out of that. All right. Because this is the first that we're offering, we're going to give you a hodgepodge of many of our different seminars, and we're going to mash it all up just to make sure that we're not boring the ever-living snot out some or leaving the others behind. Let's start with some history. Sorry, he's a history major, one of the other most useless majors on the face of the planet. Anybody know when the first structure was constructed in the state of Pennsylvania? The year was 1640. It was a Swedish mercantile in what is now known as Germantown, PA. Anybody know when the first sewer system came through the state? 1802 in Philadelphia. And I'm sure if we got NCIS, they could still find DNA from the founding fathers in the Schuylkill River. Now, here's where it all comes together. Anybody have any idea when the first regulations regarding septic systems came into existence?
72.
Close. Damn, you're good.
Oh, I am forgetting. 78.
73. So there's 340 years of structures that were built in the state that had absolutely no regulation to them. And you will find all kinds of weird things in the ground on some of these places. Well, one of my favorite was a railroad car. Seriously. Yep. Took 2 cranes to get this thing in the ground. And because of state regulations, it's only allowed to be in the ground for 25 years because it's a metal tank. By reg, any metal tank has to be replaced after 25 years. So this guy is really screwing with his kids. I love it. One of the other things that we found, or we find a lot, is old cesspools. And some of these can be anywhere from the tiniest one I've ever encountered was 500 gallons, and I don't know how it was still working, but it was. And the biggest one I ever saw was 12,000 gallons, and that was hanging on by a thread. 12,000 gallons is 20 foot deep, 12 foot round. That's big old. Big hole. Moving on from that. Yeah, the three magic dates in Pennsylvania regarding septic systems. 1973, first regulations. Most recent manifest change was 1998. So any change that has to come about to your septic system must be made in accordance to the regulations from 1998. This is where 2-compartment tanks, 12 inches below ground for the risers, all that came into existence. The third and questionable date is 1964. Anybody got a clue what happened in 64? Cesspools were banned. Could not use a cesspool for new construction. Now, we were talking earlier, and Lisa kind of gave the ship away on this one, but if you have a burn on an existing structure that's got an existing septic that is working, you have 1 calendar year to rebuild. We have seen houses built in 2004 or later that are on a cesspool. And you go, what in the heck? And that's what it was. Burn out, fall out, tear down, 1 calendar year. Now, DEP is going to try to close that loop. They've been trying to close it for a while, but they're going to get traction. They really hate cesspools. That's what they're trying to get rid of. They're trying to, yes, ma'am.
What is a cesspool exactly? How does it work? I mean, I get it by definition, but like.
Okay. Basically, it's an old outhouse that has a pipe going into the house.
Okay.
Okay, everything runs into it, and it's supposed to break down and filter through the walls of the tank, the walls of the pit. So they're usually constructed out of stone or block, brick, whatever, with big gaps in it.
Okay.
And it's supposed to just seep out through there
Into the ground.
and to the ground. Now, over years, you know, that solid layer just keeps creeping up. And typically what you'll find is that some of these places never had an access hole drilled into the cesspool to be able to clean it, maintain it. Some of them 100+ years old, and everybody's surprised when they just not working. The other thing about cesspools that you will often find is they have an overflow line. This overflow line is supposed to be below the level of the line coming in from the house that runs out to help divert liquid, whatever. And in a lot of cases, especially in old construction, you'll see it running right into a creek, river, stream, whatever. You go up and down Dauphin, along the river, up along the creeks, you'll find hundreds of them. That's what we call wildcatting. And that is definitely a problem that the SEO is going to want to know about, because if you have a system that's wildcatting, that's illegal discharge, and it's one of the 3 reasons why a septic system will fail a regulatory inspection. Where was it?
Can I say one more thing on that?
Yeah, but you have to get up here in front of the camera. Nobody can see you back there.
If the township allows it, it's already existing. Some of them work like a dream. You can see that they were pumped out, and you go to pump them, and it's literally wicking it up as we're, pumping, and then we flush the toilets and all that.
Yeah,
And they
some
really work-
cesspools are wonderful.
And I have a whole paper on this. So one of the classes that we will be breaking out is called Systems Design. And if you get a cesspool, I can give you more information. I've seen these and I understand.
Okay. And she's absolutely right. Some cesspools are fantastic, others not so much. All right. There are only 2 types of septic systems known to me. They break out into 2 main categories, and then there's all kinds of supplements. But the first one is gravity. That's sewer line, tank, absorption, or sewer line cesspool, whatever. And then there's pressure dose. That means anything that's got a pump in it. Now, here's where we get into some very interesting conversation. People that like to use macerator pumps in the house. I got this one flipper, he loves using because he can get extra bedrooms in the basement. And he puts these 35-gallon tubs bored into the floor, and sometimes just laying on the floor, and he plumb everything into. It's a menagerie to follow all the goddamn sewer lines everywhere. But by reg, every pump that's in the house is supposed to have an alarm. What's the point of putting an alarm in a 35-gallon bucket? By the time it goes off, you're already floating on the floor anyway. Macerator pumps have a lifespan of 10 years. You might want to note that. 10 years is their life expectancy, and they typically cost about $800 to $900 to replace. The effluent pumps in the dosing tanks, 17 years, as Lisa told you. They are supposed to have an alarm float on them as well. In fact, if there is no alarm float or it doesn't work, it's got to be fixed by reg. That's not something that we have control of. We have to have the alarm working. First sand mounds ever built in the state of Pennsylvania came out in the early 80s, and they were complete shit. They didn't work worth a damn. By the mid 80s, they started to get it right, but they didn't require an alarm on them because they didn't know what the hell they were doing until 91. So if you have a sand mound that was built prior to 91, the likelihood that you're going to have a alarm box on there, low. But it requires it now. And we have to make that change. That is something that DP is requiring us and the SEOs to do. And if you want to be on the SEO's good side, you don't let something like that slide. Because when you got to go for a repair permit and you need the SEO to say, okay, go ahead. And he remembers that you let something like that slide, you might not have it. Yes, ma'am.
It seems like a dumb question, but the reason why the float would set off the alarm is because
The liquid level in the tank got too high, the pump is
the
dead,
tank, so the float is in the tank.
the float is in the tank. And the only reason that float would ever alarm is when the pump dies.
To pump it out into the drain field.
Into the sand mound, into whatever pressure dose gravity system you got out there, yes.
So usually at what point is that, like how? close is it?
Usually, if the float is installed correctly, it alarms at 3/4 volume, which would give you about 200 to 300 gallons more that you could push into it before you start blowing out your sewer line in the house.
Okay.
So in other words, one day. Okay?
But, okay, so that's the average gallons basically in a house and family of what? 200 to 300 gallons.
Yeah, well, here's where we get into, all right, what is the standard family? What is the size and the volume of the system? A standard dosing tank is usually 500 gallons.
Okay.
Other systems, they're always varied. 500 gallons. You set the float at 300 gallons capacity. That way you have 200 more to be able to push in before everything starts going sideways. Okay? That is typical. That is accepted. Now, there are always going to be exceptions. I did an inspection over in Lewisberry before I gave up that township because the SE and I don't like each other. That had 17 people living in a 3-bedroom house. That's never going to work.
No.
Right. Even better was that sand mound, you could have done surfing on it. I mean, it was very squishy. Yes. Okay.
Can I make one comment so that you comprehend a little better, like you taught me for the new ones? When the float comes up, the float, it's like, it has like little, it just comes up,
It's like a toilet float.
and once when the tank fills, right, it should release to the mouth. If it goes above proper operating level, that float will tilt and that'll alarm, and it's a big deal. So it's a much simpler, smaller item, but man, is it an important component, and it has to be set right, which is why if it's set too high, too low, it's tangled up, you know, and sometimes, for whatever reason, it does get tangled up and it could alarm, and that's all you need to do is reset the flow. But in most cases, it's the pumps out. And, you know, people go a week with using the water and it's just over there off flow, and it creates a complete clean out of the system unnecessarily for something that is designed and works really well to prevent that.
So if it goes off, contact somebody immediately.
Yes.
Usually your hauler, call your hauler first.
I mean, if you hear it in your house.
Oh, yes, and that's, thank you for that segue. Yes, the alarm is supposed to be where you can hear it. Now, in some cases, you have to have an exterior alarm that's not only audible, but visual, because you can't put your alarm box somewhere where you can hear it because it's servicing, say, 2 different residences. Some of these things sound like the TMI sirens when they used to go off. Other ones sound like a little rat that's having diarrhea.
The ones that are working properly will give you a headache. They go off that loud.
You can't mess that up.
Yes, ma'am.
Who am I supposed to call if it goes off?
He's got a holler.
Start with your septic pumper or a hauler, as we call them.
Oh,
I thought
you meant like holler. Even a.
Oh, give it a holler.
I know. I know.
We are so far off the rails here.
All right. That's some of these places that we've been in, it's been a virtual treasure hunt to find the alarm boxes. She found one buried inside a breaker panel. Inside the breaker panel, not just by the switches, behind the panel, buried in the wall. Not good.
Most of the time, though, they put them in the basement on the wall somewhere.
I would say not most time, but at least 70% of the time. I found them in the shower stall. I found them in medicine cabinets. We found one, and this was epic, in a garage detached about 500 feet away from the residence. Why? Oh, probably because it was easier to run the wire there. But that being said, let's move on to hydraulic load testing, because everybody wants to know why, how, and so on and so forth. 2 different size bottles here. This represents the hydraulic load test for a 3-bedroom house. How is that even possible? Takes you a minute to fill that bottle up. That represents about 1 liter a minute. And that's representative for a 3-bedroom house. So 1 liter a minute, and then you set the tap to run at that constant level. You run it for 2 days. And if a house can't sustain 1 liter a minute on that kind of a steady drip, how in the hell is it ever going to support a family? That's usually one of the arguments we hear, especially from some of Tavia's clients. You're gonna run my well dry.
I have a little.
Right. Yep. No. This is representative of a 5-bedroom home. This is 1.5 liters. Same thing. Fill it in a minute, set the tap, let it run. For the 4-bedroom, we'd have to do a little, you know, it overfills it a little bit. Okay. Now, you have something to say? Come up.
Some people just say, well, then I'll just turn the water on. That's not all we do. We're also pre-inspecting. We stay with the water for at least a half an hour. I get out there, check the lids, check around, check that if I have any gray lines that are, get as much of the inspection done as I possibly can, so that we got about a half an hour. So I'm checking for any leaks. That's what some of the people, we do have insurance for that, but I will not de-winterize and hit that main to start a hydraulic load. I prefer a plumber do that for 2 reasons. The first of all, just to get everything, you know, turned on and right. And that's where they're usually going to have the pipes if they have any problem. I had a realtor call me and cancel a hydraulic load start because they dewinterized that morning and the plumber was there and I could hear in the background, they had quite the situation. So when you say, well, can't you just dewinterize and like turn? No, I can, because I want them to do it, because I don't know if we're gonna have any problems.
And oftentimes, lead valves will be left open for, say, a jacuzzi tub, shower stall, and we won't notice that because it's all the way across the other side of the building, and all of a sudden you start hearing waterfalls. Where the hell is that coming from? Not a good thing to find out on your third day of water running. All right. Finally, remember I was telling you, well, not finally, but next up, DEP is trying to close the noose on a lot of these ancient systems. They are currently in the process, and every year or two, they come out with something new. 2 years ago, they came out with the plumbing on a dose pump must come within 12 inches of the lid. So if you're replacing the dosing pump, that plumbing that is usually down there about 4 feet deep has to be extended up and brought over with a quick disconnect within 12 inches of the lid. Thank you. I love it because I'm a fat guy. I can't fit down next to that plumbing inside the tank to be able to disconnect these things without scraping some things up that I'd rather not scrape. This year, they just came out with a new reg and you're gonna hate it. If you're planning an addition on the house, it's always been, you would size up the tank volume. Now they require that you size up the tank volume and the absorption area.
But Nate, I mean, but
Royce.
Royce, I thought you couldn't make repairs to the drain system.
You're in livestock, big bugaboo. So yes, you're right. You cannot make repairs to the drain field, especially if you have a gravity. This is why the SEOs are going to be on site and on hand for any addition that you are looking to put up. So they could very easily come out to you and say, "Nah, you can't use the existing absorption area, you got to build new."
And that means the entire septic system.
Right.
Do you have one for it? Is it still open a perk?
So if you're selling a property to somebody and they tell you right out of the gate that they want to add an extra bedroom, do this or that, let them know that the building permits coming through the township are going to require SEO involvement,
When's that?
effective August of last year. So this is some of the new stuff that comes out. Back in 2016, DEP mandated that all saltwater softeners have their discharge flow into the septic system, which was the biggest mistake they've made so far, other than being in existence. But
And we still have to enforce it.
we have to enforce it because it's right. We don't agree with it. The ancient Greeks, when they conquered somebody and they wanted them to stay conquered, salted the fields. And now you're pushing this shit into your absorption area? They're deranged, but that's beside the point.
Did you guys have any say?
Absolutely none whatsoever.
So like whenever the SEOs get together and,
It's
Come
not
up
the
with
SEOs that do this. This is all DEP. Right.
forget all about it.
And you bring up a very valid point. Lisa had alluded to this earlier. If you contact the SEOs to be able to verify the situation, adding residents or property, and they show up, whatever it is that they say is immutable. It's cut in stone. You must do that. Regardless. They could tell you to build a sand mound the size of an Olympic swimming pool, and you have no choice. You must do that.
They're like, God.
Yes, they are. They are. Now, Just for FYI, there are certain medications that will cause serious damage to any septic system. I don't care what they are, what it is. Chemo, obviously, every drug ends with the suffix toxin. It's going to kill it. It's going to kill it pretty quickly. Heart medication. Believe it or not, the principal ingredient in any blood pressure medication, heart medication, is rat poison. Anybody know what rat poison is made out of? Strychnine. Close. But the most direct and instantaneous failure of the septic system that I have ever experienced was anybody who's on ulcerative colitis medication.
Well, what do you do?
Yeah, you try to sell them to get on a sewer system. Sewer, right? Because what do? Well, in this particular case, you have to take the bag off, put it in the trash, not flush it down the toilet.
Like, I mean,
I know.
I'm living in the house with that system and.
Composting toilets,
Okay.
they are odorless. We rep them, we know them, we know what they can do, we know, there's one option. Or move to a community where you're on public sewer because they don't give a shit.
I have to interject that. But if you've already screwed up your system, you can't sell your house, you got somebody that's sick. That's why the education is so important. If you move an elderly in on medication or on chemo or anything like that, seriously, and my father-in-law really was on this composting toilet. Instead of having a potty chair, the composting toilet would not enter your system. You can vent it right out a window. It doesn't smell, and then it turns into dirt. And then
Really good dirt.
yeah, really good dirt. And then I do have one question that I'm still trying to get answered. If, like, you have the colitis bag being emptied into the composting toilet, is the dirt then needing to be disposed of?
Oh, yes.
So, then you can still dispose of the dirt, but the last thing you want to do is let any family member ever move in with you that's going to kill that system. And I might say, just on a personal note, from a logistics standpoint, those composting toilets are so sanitary. A potty chair is a disgusting mess of a filth of a thing. If you've ever had to, you're going to spill it. You're going to ruin your carpeting. It's going to smell. And it doesn't put the elderly in the right position to even go where the composting toilet does. This is where we can break out the classes and all of that. To educate you later.
The final thing I have for my presentation is a visual. And this visual is pretty standard practice in new system installations. And I'll give anybody $20 right on my wall if they can tell me what the hell this is.
Looks like a car wash thing. You go to a car wash?
Chimney sweep.
Yeah, chimney sweep, I was thinking.
I would recommend not touching it and hand weeding too much.
Smell it good, doesn't it?
Oh, no, this is about 3 years dead.
Somehow it got in a septic.
Is that a
system.
Christmas
The
tree
tank-
branch?
No, it's got a metal hook at the top, see?
Yeah, but it could still be,
brush, right?
Anybody?
Oh, yeah, is that like a sweat filter?
This is an effluent filter.
Oh.
It comes out of your septic tank in the outlet bathroom to keep all this from rolling out into the chute.
that's for
Okay,
septic for sand mound.
not necessarily. It could be in any system.
Okay.
And-
How much is supposed to change that?
Well, the trick is, you're not supposed to change it. You're supposed to pull it out, rinse it, and put it back in. This is from a septic tank that hadn't been opened in 10 years. And for some reason, they were having backups in the house.
Notices like one for you, you have to do it.
You have to pump your tank. What if you have a tank and you don't know that you have an effluent filter in there?
Yeah, they had filters.
Some of them do, some of them don't.
And what if
But
they're
anybody
underground and you
who's,
can't get 'em?
pardon?
What if they're like under the ground and you can't get them?
Well, see, therein lies the next big thing. If you have an effluent filter, the installer is supposed to leave you a port sticking above the ground that you can remove the cap and pull the filter out. Now, this particular person had that cap, didn't like it, cut it down, filled over, and then was really shocked and surprised when he started backing up into his basement. Literally, he had 6 inches of raw sewage in his basement.
Blowing the sewer line out in the basement. sounds suggestive, right? And then
Yeah.
filters closet all the time. Yeah.
So, on any valid, if you get any septic inspection done anywhere and somebody states that you have an effluent filter in the outlet of your septic tank, please take the time to educate your buyers. This is not something you can ignore. You gotta pull it out once a year, flush it, put it back in. You don't like getting dirty? Tough shit. Somebody's gonna have to do it. Either you're gonna pay somebody to do it or you're gonna do it yourself.
Or get backed up.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that something that's discovered during the inspection?
Oh, yes,
Is it checked and inspected and
Yes.
cleaned during the inspection?
yes,
With our pumper, that's another reason to use a preferred pumper.
right. You get somebody like, well, Hillsburg, Walters, they won't give a shit. They'll come, they'll suck it out. No, look at that, and you just walk away.
More importantly, most people don't know they have them, because if they buy a house without inspection, or if they build. a
There you
house.
go.
I had a realtor, top realtor, that was selling their personal home. And that dirty, filthy pig of a situation, and I might say $12,000 worth of repair, completely unnecessary. Completely unnecessary. I made one of the pumper's sons, who was apprenticing that summer, cry to have to empty one of those. It's so stupid. It's like having a spaghetti strainer and you don't know. Like if you just threw all the food down your sink with a spaghetti strainer there, eventually it would just back up. So, and on that note too, if it's not excreted from your body, don't flush it down. Condoms, tampons, pads, food,
You know,
grease.
tampons are okay, pads are definitely a
Well,
problem.
maybe not. Because
Condoms are a real problem.
I would say the tampons, no, because how about the $12,000 pump that Epstein had to do over my.
That was a fluke.
Once they expand and cause
Usually when
Major
they
issues?
hit a septic tank, they are already as expanded as they're going to get.
goldfish.
Right. But, but if for some way or some reason, they can find a way into the final tank where the pump is, the pump can pick them up. And then the pump impeller will grind that mess of string up until it just seizes the pump. That is not a common thing, but it happens enough that it's become urban legend that everybody believes.
Well, it's not a good idea. It's not a good idea because by design.
They're on the side of caution.
Well,
But then if you start erring on the side of caution, you're not gonna find anybody who's willing to buy a house on a septic system.
right,
that-
and that's stupid, right? So
Yes,
here's,
ma'am.
here's one of the reasons though, the
Hmm.
manufacturer does not recommend it. If the manufacturer does not recommend flushing tampons down a septic system,
What
or if you have a
manufacturer are you
lift,
talking
if
about?
you have a lift pump, because this came in after the Eschner, you don't know about this.
Yes, I do.
Well, if you try to do a homeowner's claim, it's null and void, because you were not listening to the manufacturer's instructions over a tampon. This guy was screaming at his wife. I heard him in the background. I'm telling you, it's
Yep.
stupid.
That was a $2,500 grinder pump.
We've also seen divorces happen over condoms in the tank.
No,
Seriously.
That's an urban legend too. But it is true.
Because like Royce has a vasectomy.
And if we start looking at stuff first.
Okay? I'm just saying.
He's gonna have to talk.
You would not believe what happens on site, that you have to maintain control. And I went to the realtor the other day, said, Lisa doesn't have any personality anymore. No, Lisa's got beat up enough to know. And that's what we want to tell you about splitting these classes out. There's so much to know about each little section. But the reason that Justin contacted, us, I'm sure, was for the most important thing is so that you can take a hold and feel empowered on selling septic properties. So that you can stay in compliance, so that he doesn't have to go through 10,000 pages of paperwork because something was missed.
Can you, is there a, I know there's not, but is there any kind of rule of thumb as to the lifespan of a system? What would be a reasonable expectation for the lifespan of different types of systems?
Yes, I can start giving you those. In-ground systems, gravities, anywhere between 50 and 75. And that's only if you have a concrete septic tank. That's usually the lifespan that is attributed to a concrete tank. The pressure dose systems, every component has a different lifespan, but the mound itself is usually 35 to 50. And then it starts tightening up to the point where you might have trouble getting drainage through. Some of the newer pressure dose systems like the Elgin or the drip or whatever, by the way, both Elgin and drip can be put in a floodplain.
That's important.
Very important to know. Those systems are only theorized because it's so new. But they are saying 20 to 25 years on either the Elgin or the drip.
As a follow-up to that,
Yes.
what are some activities or actions that might decrease the lifespan of a system, or what can you do to prolong the lifespan of a system?
Prolonging the lifespan of the system, there's additives that can be used in any and all of them. Yeast will take the place of Ridex. So you can get a packet of baker's yeast once every 3 months, you flush that down as opposed to the entire jug of Ridex. That's good. Liquid enzymes that you can purchase at the hardware store, Robic, ROEBIC products, Robic mainline cleaners, septic system, blah, blah, blah. They're all good, about $12 a quart, 1 quart every 6 months on a known problem system. The things to do to prevent problems are a much longer list.
Basically, everything we talked about today and then some.
Plants, driving over them,
Right,
not servicing the system.
right.
And
I forgot a big.
don't be stupid. Don't rinse out your paint buckets in the
No.
in the drains going out to the septic. We had a guy that redid all the flooring in his house and he rinsed out his glue buckets and he went down in the system. That was a mess.
So it basically,
Don't be
Baby wipe-
stupid.
it took it plasticized the filter, which is the ground, right?
No, it never made it out of the septic tank, thank God. But what it did do was the caustic elements of the glue got into and eroded the piping between the septic tanks, ate out the impeller of the pump, but the pump still ran, but he just couldn't figure out why. Nothing was getting anywhere. And he had a 1,500 gallon primary septic tank that after he rinsed out all that glue, he was down to 1,000 gallons of actual service space. That's a rarity. People are usually not that stupid.
Here's another one. People don't think about it. When the grandparents take the kids to Disney or you take them, these big toothbrushes, you would not believe it. We replaced the pump. Week later, we're out there. He said, there's a toothbrush in there with Buzz Lightyear. It's these big fatty ones or the ones that have the arms up waving because it just grinds out the pump.
Huh.
And it can happen on a new pump. But
Yes.
kids flush them down.
Oh,
Keys and cell phones shouldn't get down there either. You'll be surprised how often.
That's the best thing that I ever found in a septic tank was the iPhone. It was
Baby
still
wipes.
working.
Baby wipes by far are the most destructive I've ever seen, heard of, or other. And the hauler cannot get rid of
All right.
the baby wipes. If your system has baby wipes, you will pay so much money for pumping, because they take a rake and they have to let it drain. You put them in a bucket, one by one, because they get fined when that goes through the strainer on their dumping. It's a big deal.
when did sand mounds come into play? Because I'm just curious, because if they last 35 to 50 years, right?
Mhm.
Let's go back. So when was that date?
The first sand mounds came into existence in the state of about 81, and they were terrible. They didn't streamline it and get this situation right until about 1990.
Okay, so we're not really coming up, well, we are coming up on
Yes.
35 years. So we're selling homes now that the sand mounds, right,
Mhm.
are out of date. Could be.
Could
or-
be out of date, could be out of date. Mostly what you're going to run into at this stage is sand mounds that were built out of the wrong material.
So what material are they built out of? And
The ones that
what do
are,
you do in that case?
all right, the ones that are giving you trouble were built out of limestone sand. Valley quarries down in Fairfield, big, huge quarry, limestone, you mix limestone with water and calcium, instant concrete. The correct sand is coming out of Sidonia sand out of Boiling Springs area, just south of Carlisle along 34. And as far as what do you do to fix it, it all depends on who your SEO is.
Wait, can we go back to housing? So is that all sand? I thought it was sand and gravel sort of
It
mixed
is.
together. So that's what it is, sand and gravel mixed.
On your
Layer.
elevated sand mounds, you have
Elevated.
some at-grade mounds that have no gravel, they're all sand. You have other at-grade mounds that they just blend in with the top topography and they look like they're uniform. They're all gravel, no sand. So it all depends. There's 6 of one, half dozen of another. But typically on an elevated sand mound, the ones that look like you got a volleyball court set up in your backyard, they are sand, gravel, dirt.
So whenever you say sand,
Mhm.
do you mean regular sand or DEP sand? Because back in the day, whenever they first started, you had to use DEP sand.
Back
Which
in the
was like
day
a
when they-
black gravel sand.
Back in the day when they first started, DEP sand was a uniform term that applied to anything that was ground to a certain size. Hence why
It
you
looked like
use like,
cinder pretty
Yeah,
much,
yeah.
but it was ground up and it didn't really look like sand.
exactly, neither does limestone sand. That looks like the white beach sand that you would find down the Caribbean. What you're supposed to be using is the brown clay sand that comes out of Mount Sidonia.
Silica base.
Silica base. Thank you. So, back when they started, it could have been anything, as long as it was a certain size. Yes, ma'am.
I have another question. So in the sand mound itself, what comes up out of it? So you've got these little,
The pressure valve, right?
the pressure valves, right, that come out of it that have holes in them
Mhm,
that lets the stuff go
mhm.
out of it.
Those pipes that you see sticking up out of the mountain,
That's it.
Vents.
they are not required by DEP.
What?
What? It is a second stupidest thing they've
Wait,
ever
but
done.
those are the pipes.
Yes, they connect to the pipes that are in the mountain.
The
And
laterals.
laterals, thank you. And those laterals are 1.5 inch diameter pipe, PVC, and they have a 1/4 inch hole. That's a new recent change, 1/4 inch hole drilled into them every 5 feet. And every 5 feet, you can almost be guaranteed on an old mountain that you're going to get some squishy. You're going to get a little bouncy, bouncy. But it is not the end of everything. To answer, I don't know whose question was, if you run into a mound that's in trouble, there are several different things that the SEOs have already come up with that they will allow to happen. One is you dig down to the top of the sand and you rip it all out. And you put new sand in. That's called a removal replacement. Huge pain in the balls, gonna look like something died in your backyard.
Yeah.
But that's what they'll allow. Some SEOs will allow you to dig along the laterals cut the laterals out because they're usually packed with sludge, black slime, because people never bothered to pump that last tank out, and it's only water. Replace 1 scoop of sand under each lateral, put new laterals in, and heal it all back over.
With the correct sand, if it's the old, not the correct sand.
Correct.
So we don't have to scare our clients into stating that they have. Right.
It all depends on what the inspection shows.
Right.
Go ahead. We have come up, and I'll get to you just a minute.
Okay.
We've come up, or I've come up with another way that works really well, but it's not approved by DEP. Therefore, the SEOs can't say do it. But most of them will say, I didn't hear anything. What? We dig along the laterals and we take a digging iron and we stir up the ground underneath it. And we put a huge amount of liquid enzymes in there to eat and digest the sludge. And in 3 to 6 weeks, it's acting like a brand new mountain.
They're applying common sense, which we're trying to initiate the reg for.
No, sorry, Debbie.
I have.
Yes.
This is just recent, you know,
Yeah.
We're on Perry County, we have it now.
Yep.
And we were developing the we were help to fill.
Right.
Look out the other day and I was coming out of the
Water's coming out of one of those pipes. Okay. Well, it's coming out of the pump tank, so it's going to be better than if it were coming out. So I think that, go ahead.
So I'm wondering, my husband, I told him. 4 years or 5 years, I don't.
The reason why you have water coming out of the pipe has nothing to do with the length of time that it's been since it was last pumped. Either you have a broken pipe or you have a missing cap. That's it.
A cap, screw it on. A repair, probably.
So are you talking about what you're doing? Is that what you're?
Yes and no. It's not acid, it's a dry enzyme that calcium carbonate calcium peroxide that we shove in there, it eats everything, and restores the ground in normal conditions. Yes, and at the same point in time, a little different. But yes.
I wanted to address the scare thing. You never want to scare your clients. There's no scaring. It's simple maintenance. What it is your education and confidence or confidence in yourself on your septic. Because by design, it's just a matter of choice. And it's payments. Let's say an average house pays $300 per quarter, which that's low, okay, per quarter, per year for water and sewer, for water to come in and sewer to be removed. So 400 times 4 is
300 times 4 is $1,200.
okay. We're doing 1,200. Take the 1,200 times 20 years. This is where we participate. 1,200 times 20 years. It's over 20,000. How much is it? $24,000. So you can pay over 20 years, if it only stays at $300 a quarter, $24,000. Or you can maintain your own wastewater and have your well and be in control of the water that's coming in, the quality of the water, and not pay $24,000.
$300 every 3 years. For the pumping.
Right. So you gotta pay for the pumping every 3 years. So that's less, right?
Right.
Unless you do not maintenance, then you pay it in the end anyway. So it all comes out in the end. I don't know if that's in any of your teaching.
So
So if you want to go on vacation with that money,
All right.
maintenance your system.
how often do you find that a system is beyond what we'll call a real estate inspection failure, getting into the regulatory failure realm?
Anytime we run into one that's got a bad tank, obviously that's a regulatory issue because we have to get it in SEO. It's complicated to answer, Justin. To the point where it would meet a regulatory fail, the illegal discharge, the run back, or the surfacing, we get maybe 10% of all of our inspections that we meet.
And how many of those can't be repaired in some fashion? And we
Uh,
start getting
repair-
into a holding tank situation.
Oh, going to a holding tank, less than 1% of that 1%.
Okay, so listen, less than 1% of 1%.
Would it wind up requiring a holding tank?
So that is the worst case scenario. That is apocalypse scenario that we
Doesn't
all,
happen
that
all
we
that
all
often.
fear, and it doesn't happen that often.
Correct.
So that's the perspective that you need to keep in mind. Everything else is just awareness.
Never fear septic. Educate yourself. I'm from Johnstown. My uncle was a township supervisor, and I saw the entire town destroyed. I saw septic tanks rolled over cemeteries, rolled over houses. And they were able to put that all back together. Okay, but it's a lot of neglect. Sometimes the holding tanks are because the soils are just that bad,
No,
or they're by a river or a creek.
most of the time that you get into a situation where you're talking about your apocalyptic scenario, it's all based on human error. And it only takes a short run of people being extremely stupid to set that ball of rock tumble.
Or they
Yeah,
are,
but,
Go ahead.
or the other thing is you get somebody who does an inspection that doesn't know or doesn't care.
if you have a 1/4 acre and you've destroyed your soils by dumping
Yeah.
medical waste basically, and you've killed the soils beyond repair, you've got a 1/4 acre, you've got nowhere to go.
Right.
Because they won't let a septic system go on top of a septic system because of the drain code. You gotta go on a different septic system or you get into these sand mounds or these alternate systems. I can also tell you this, there are certain cases where you would want to get somebody to coordinate transactions for you, which is why Royce is we don't even advertise it, but he'll consult. He will go to the SES because people will blow it right up by calling township and start screaming like a maniac. That's the worst thing you ever want to do with an SEO. They're all overworked, they're underpaid, they're all over the place, and you live in Pennsylvania, and so we can correct that.
Oh, sorry, Cindy. And often the SEO isn't gonna point you out to some of these alternate systems that may be an option for you, and you need someone to advocate. And who knows what those alternate systems might be to talk with the SEO, right?
Thank you for that. That's a nice segue. Power,
Yeah,
soil scientists, alternate systems. SEOs can only do conventionals, which are your in-ground trenches, which are rarer than hen's teeth, and sand mounds. Because they're only allowed to work with soils that are 20 inches deep, that are good. You hit 19 inches and 5/16 by reg, you have to involve a soil scientist. Now, at that point, I'm sure somebody would be fudging a number or two, but you get the gist.
PSMA will not allow us to give recommendations. He got his patty smacked. This was the whole thing about that more information, that Helen Keller thing. He was so mad. This is like 2 days after Christmas. He's in the car. He said, I'm driving to Indianapolis. I found a national organization. So we can give recommendations. We can point you at least in the right direction. We're permitted to do that. PSMA does not allow recommendations, which is why you're out there wandering around. And I hate that because it's stupid.
Cindy, another question? Or did we blow it?
No, so I'm back to sand mounds now.
Yes.
Okay, so if you have to like reconstruct your sand mound,
Mhm.
it's, the, like soiled area that you would be removing,
Mhm.
does that have to be like hazardly, like, there's some sort of hazmat kind of?
No, but you have to, you're gonna be paying through the nose for the removal and replacement of it anyway, because you're talking triax loads of dirt, sand, and gravel.
Yeah, but where do you take that?
Now you take it down in place where you can
farm.
dump fill. You can take it to a landfill and dump it there,
Wow,
but yeah,
that's crazy.
it is crazy, but you don't wanna do that. Usually you find some schmuck that's got Phil wanted signs and you just roll it there.
Yeah. I know.
But
This
at
is
the
why
same
they
time,
require-
Don't fill your head
No.
up with all that. That's like way down the line. And in your catastrophic or whatever, can't, on a whole thing, you can use that composting toilet system. It's just in our country of the United States of America, it's not understood. In the rest of the world, it's very much understood. And as we have these disaster zones, it will be even more understood. I'm not here to sell composting toilets. I didn't know anything about it, but they're awesome. Go ahead.
So what do they cost?
They cost anywhere between 2,500 upwards.
1,500 to $3,000. The $3,000 would be standard, what looks like a regular toilet, all emptying into a hopper in your basement. The 1,500 would be one that looks like a composting toilet, a little perch on it, and with the 1.5 to 4 inch vent going on.
And then what do you do with the,
With the shit,
yeah.
It turns into dirt.
first of all, you gotta mix it with peat moss, and this is why they're never gonna be popular. You gotta tumble it every day, and depending on how much usage, once every 6 weeks to 6 months, you spin it backwards and it drops into a drawer and you take it out and you sprinkle.
It's the richest potting soil in the world. Royce
It
doesn't
is.
like it because Royce is very intelligent. I have more common sense than intelligence. I have more patience than he does. So here's the thing, he feels that most people are too stupid to use them. They simply need to be instructed on them. And if you're in a situation to really need one, and if you really understood it and how sanitary they are and everything, because just out of necessity, I've had to learn about this. And if you just walk through the woods, this is the most layman's term. Walk through the woods. Is there dead animal parts? Is there poop everywhere? No, because nature naturally decomposes it back into dirt. They're just doing the same thing. You just got to run through a little simulation. Most people can't handle a regular composting toilet because it doesn't compost immediately, which is why those basement chambers are often popular. But the thing is too, is you can use them with a very, very, very tiny bit of water or no water at all. So that also is a solution where people have a lot of water problems, and you'll see this come more in the future. But there is solutions to this. But there are some cases where, even if he's coordinating for you, because we had a popular realtor in the area and money was not the issue to build on a homestead where it was by a creek, and the soils just would not perform. And they do not want to go with the composting toilet option. But with the gray water system and pit or whatever, that's usually in worst case. But I would just put that way over on the side and not worry that that's going to be the norm.
But can you get a building permit with a composting toilet?
Yeah.
You don't even require a permit
Yeah.
for a composting toilet,
Mhm.
but you still have to go through module 2 definition, because you have to deal with your gray water somehow.
Gotcha.
If you've ever been on a boat and that blue water splashes all over the place, and
Or
it could
in
be
a
RV, anything,
porta pot.
you would be like, you would be loving on this composting toilet idea. If you've ever gone to the bathroom after somebody else has gone and it still stinks in there, the composting toilet does not leave any smell at all. It's amazing. So you just need to wrap your head around where that would be. And I'm not here to sell you composting toilet. It's a solution.
Question. but
Yeah.
Are we running?
No, take it
Same
anytime you want.
So we went back and forth this weekend in an offer. I had the buckets.
Yep.
We elected to have a septic inspection.
Mhm.
It's 250 outside the flood zone, so the home itself is not in the flood zone, but they're pretty close to floodplains.
Okay.
Sellers are not living there. They went bonkers over the notion of a hydraulic load test.
Mhm.
And we ultimately could not come to an agreement
Okay.
on why.
On
The
why
agent
they
is-
wouldn't do
Yeah,
the
she didn't
hydro?
want, they just felt it was ridiculous to, and I didn't know enough about it at the time. I've got it, I understand it's vacant and why you do it. If you can go back to basics, I think I know the fundamentals. Why is it, why do you do it vacant house 7 days beyond?
Okay.
And does the fact that you're near high water levels impact the amount of water that you would funnel in
No.
there?
No,
Okay,
to be honest with you, most importantly, this hydraulic load is not something that is mandated or required by DEP. It is mandated and required by Pennsylvania Board of Realtors.
okay.
7 days is where DEP steps in, and that's because after 7 days, the grounds actually start to restore themselves.
Okay.
Okay, a period. How they come up with this number, I don't know. but
Yeah, because
70
people go on
So
vacation
odd.
for a
For a
week.
week.
Exactly.
Yep, this,
So
yeah,
we would-
this was a great weekend for this. I was.
And I'll come back to that in
Yep.
just a minute.
Yep.
So 7 days of non-use, the grounds in DEP's vision start to restore themselves.
Mhm.
Meaning that, all right, you have a family of 4, they're gone for 2 weeks on vacation. Yeah, the grounds are going to start to get better. They're going to start healing themselves. They're not under constant load. So to make sure that your buyers are protected, then people are not walking into, hey, they just got back from vacation. Look at this. This is wonderful. That's why the hydraulic load. To answer your question, people that are on vacation for a week, to avoid the hydraulic load, they must be back in using the system under normal load for 2 weeks. That's how you avoid the hydraulic load. If they're just out on vacation.
That's right. And a lot of people know they got a problem before they go on vacation for 2 or 3 weeks. And don't tell anybody, which is where I'm a pretty.
Yeah,
good-
we've had a lot of people lie to us. Oh, it's occupied. And you walk in, and there's not a drip of anything. There's no food in the fridge. Doors propped open with a brick. And yeah, I don't think there are people living here.
Well, I've worked with realtors that have had a vacant property and they'll be like, it's okay, seller. I'll go in once a week and I'll flush a bunch of toilets.
No,
That doesn't work.
and
Even though the toilet is 60% of the household water usage and it's flushed about 10 times a day, that's still not going to bring you up to the 400 gallons minimum for a hydraulic load test.
How-
and to be used on the small drip on a
And
regular
Stop.
faucet.
Do you do 400 gallons like one day, let it do it, and then come back and do it? I mean, are you, is
This is
400
why,
Are you drowning that unnecessarily?
The
Or,
water's constantly running for 2 days.
okay,
at a liter
Yeah.
a minute.
It's
Okay.
like an
That's-
experiment. It simulates like a family was living there, spec on the number. of
showering, flushing.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Dishwashing.
Okay.
Water
Wash your
on.
clothes.
Yes.
You know, you
For
just
48
take showers.
Yes.
The simulation of the hydraulic load test run through.
The
house.
stream of water is about the size of a pencil.
But it's an elderly person, elderly person that lives there. They move
Yeah.
out. They're not gonna use as much water
Correct,
as a family
correct.
or even as a
That's
couple.
where, as a seller, you're in the best position known to man, because you can honestly say it's occupied. But if you got a little 85-year-old woman in there who uses maybe 10 gallons of water a day,
If that,
if that. So,
Well, in the end, the seller refused to do it and she actually wouldn't let the buyer do it either, so we said bye.
that's unfortunate.
It's a seller free listing time to educate too.
All right.
Thank you.
Yes, pre-listing, especially in homes that were built prior to regulatory issues. When you sign the paperwork, convince your sellers it would be a great idea to inspect the septic.
but don't have it pumped.
You can, for us, even have it pumped. Have it pumped. It won't matter because the report is good for a minimum of 90 days. And you'll also find out if there's anything that needs to be fixed prior to listing. And therefore, if there is something that needs to be fixed, you can get it fixed and adjust your asking price. If you find out after it's listed and somebody's coming in with a contract and whoop, it's $12,000, how are you going to recoup that?
And to their point, you can't always trust the seller because the sellers get used to stuff, right? They don't know. And I tell this story all the time about a house I sold in Kendor Summit where it's 1/4 acre lots. I asked Dave and Ellen if they had any problem with their septic, and they said, nope, not at all. Home inspector comes, runs a camera down the line because it was, they just wanted to be sure. And they found out that there was a blockage at the distribution box, which was a, 30-inch oak tree, right? So,
I'm sorry.
and then I asked them and I said, this is crazy. You said you never had any problems with the septic. And they said, well, yeah, you can't take a shower and run a laundry at the same time. Otherwise it backs up in the laundry room. Well, that wasn't a problem to them, it was just the way it is. You know, that was just something they were used to for 40 years. So they might think they're being totally honest and forthright, but they just don't know because this is what they've been used to for so long. And they, you know, that's just the way it is. So by having an inspection in advance, it kind of cuts through the
The
stuff.
BS.
We've
Right.
already done this, we've done a pre-listing for the seller, and then the buyer calls us back in, because the buyer's agent will recommend us. Unbeknownst to the seller, they don't wanna believe them, we're out twice. They don't care. It's a couple $100 if you look at it. You know, rather than you're on site and then you got somebody screaming, trying to tackle me, you know, telling me that my facts aren't right, you know.
Oh, one last question.
Yeah, go.
Alternate systems, when you say this, so he said the quarter acre lots reminded me of that, so let's say your septic is bad on a quarter acre lot, there's nowhere
You're
else to
screwed.
go. So is your sand mound alternate, or is that?
No, a sand
That
mound
is-
is not alternate. At that point, when you're dealing with that small of a lot. And you've got no ability to go with a conventional system, be it a standard in-ground or a sand mound. Now you're stuck with the hybrids, you're stuck with the drifts, you're stuck with the AB systems, the Eldons, something.
Isn't there also an echo something?
EcoFlow.
EcoFlow, yeah.
The EcoFlow is just a peat moss filter that allows you to shrink your absorption size. But when you're dealing with a quarter acre lot, that is the smallest thing known to man that you can actually get a septic lot. But I do have a story in just a minute. The answer is usually when you get into those systems, the real goofy ones, the drifts, the hybrid, the Eldons or whatever, your price tag starts at 40,000 and goes up. Yes,
Small stream discharge.
40,000 here in the process to get it approved, and you stand a 50-50 shot of the state saying, okay. And then you stand at less than a 30% shot of the township saying, okay.
And it won't work if you're on the yellow breezes or the big spring because those are heritage quality watersheds, right?
You're dealing with a unique situation. Your homeowners had already pissed off the neighbors enough, sorry.
Yeah.
See, where the problem is,
Hold on, I'm not
they
done.
wanna live along the water. And they have to understand that an on-lot system has to be on top of the water like that, yeah.
When we were talking about unique and troubling systems and quarter acre lots being the smallest thing known to man. We ran into one in Susquehanna Township, right outside of Colonial Park area. 0.17 acres, well and septic.
Wow.
Yeah.
1930s built. Can we see a problem forming already? SEO came out, system's dead. I mean, dead. There's no hope for it. The existing system is already at its furthest point away from the well. And it's 35 feet.
Mm.
Sometimes you're just dealt a bad hand. Now, in this particular case, because that SEO was retiring, he said, go ahead and just pump it more frequently. Because what else are you gonna do?
No chance to hook up to public water, so.
That was my question. It never got answered well, because Susquehanna Township is Susquehanna Township. Final point, and you'll love this one. There are two regulatory people that have the ability to condemn residents on site. Now, obviously, because we're talking about septic, we know that the SEO is one of them. Anybody know who the other one is?
DEP?
No.
No?
I think good question.
Think worst case scenario.
Township supervisor.
No. Fire marshal.
Ooh, no.
That's the only two people that can condemn the property on site. So one, okay, yeah, you burned to the ground, you can't live here anymore. The other one comes in. You got shit running in the stream. You can't live here anymore either. Bad day. All right, any last questions? Anybody? Hopefully you found this to be a little bit more entertaining and amusing than your standard seminars.
Question.
Yes, ma'am.
So this is the thing about hydraulic load I don't understand.
Good.
The house has to be vacant for 7 days.
Mhm.
Right? So the house is vacant for 7 days. We go ahead and get a hydraulic load. It passes, everything's fine.
Yep.
We're not gonna settle for like another 30 days.
Mhm.
So you're back
Why?
to square one.
No.
No,
Because you've already tested it and it's,
because the septic inspection certifies it at the time of inspection.
so if you have a vacant property
Mhm.
and I talked to my lister and I'm like, listen, it might be a good idea just to get, it's been vacant, get a hydraulic load up front, have it inspected up front.
Mhm.
Then that can carry on through the transaction,
Potentially.
Yes,
if the buyer's up for that.
Right.
yes,
It depends how long it's listed too.
Why?
yes, and yes,
Because what if you
What's
have
the
it listed
time
for
limit?
30 days?
Yeah.
You said it's good for 90 days?
yes.
Okay, so the hydraulic load is only good for 90 days.
No,
Oh, boy. Okay.
we, because we are not Pennsylvania Septic Management Association affiliated, we're not the local boys, we are nationally affiliated. We have the ability to extend the life of our reports. We can go to 150 days if we're in the right frame of mind, or we're confident enough in the property.
That's you, your company.
Correct, because of our national affiliations.
So not all inspectors.
No,
Are
there's only
affiliated
3
national.
inspectors in the state of Pennsylvania that are nationally affiliated.
I'm on.
There's one.
Okay, but then back to that. So you list it, you do a pre-listing, you do the hydraulic load.
Yep.
Let's say we have you do it.
If
It's,
you
up-
can,
it's still the buyer's, I mean, yes, we have it, so that's a great feature for the buyer, but the buyer can still elect to have it
correct,
again,
yes,
If they want to pay for it.
if they're looking for it.
correct.
But if they don't, how long is that good for?
A minimum of 90, and then you call and ask, and we'll talk to you about it.
Okay,
It's all based on how confident we are in the property,
okay,
okay?
case by case.
Case by case.
Royce, how's the weather affect the results of your testing?
Damn, boy, good. All right. On a sand mound system, it can pour like a mother. Up to 2 inches of rain, and it will not have an effect on the inspection of the system. Because they are supposed to be built and designed to withstand up to 2 inches of rain.
That's standard
Yes.
septic system.
But a standard septic system, if it rains more than half an inch, you should delay by a day. If it rains more than an inch, 2 days.
And we've done this plenty of times, and sometimes we'll have to do extensions, and not everybody's happy, but you don't want incorrect results.
We had one situation, this poor woman kept calling and we rearranged. We were on our 3rd push because that 2 weeks right before Christmas, rain every weekend. I mean, don't. Moved it to the next Friday, rained again. We finally got her done last week.
So if you had a system that may be questionable or borderline, the time, depending on what you wanted your results to be, you might find different results in April in Pennsylvania or July in Pennsylvania.
Absolutely. And yes, you will. And you will find different results in rainy seasons, obviously, versus drought. We ran into several systems last year that we would have sworn would never have passed because people had done stupid things like putting cleanouts in the middle of the absorption area so they could suck them out while they're cleaning the tank. Yeah, little things that give things away like, yeah, we've had a problem here, but we're not admitting anything. And they still work. It was amazing. That's why it's based on the moment of inspection.
Right, if the township reconfigures culvert drains, sometimes that's an issue, and the township is a dumping water on your property. There's a whole seminar on water diversion. The only other thing that you didn't finish, because I didn't understand this when you had to do it the first time on eco flood. Say this is cocoa filter, that's what's in the eco flood, like that's one, it's media, it's something that absorbs. And what he's saying with a short, like your absorption area is short, you can get these eco flows to be your first.
Stage of
absorb-
disinfection.
Right, so that you can have the shorter absorption areas. It's a really, it's a really nice way to fix a problem. It's not an easy or a cheap way to fix a problem.
There's EcoFlow chambers, just the chamber themselves. Which starts at 8,500 for the peat moss and 10 grand for the cocoa filter.
That lasts.
7 to 8 years. Then you have to replace the medium. They're also constructed out of fiberglass, which means that anything that is directly in sunlight will deteriorate and break down if it's fiberglass.
Might I just encourage you that when a new realtor comes in, that at any stage of your career, but the more that you can get educated, the more that you can understand. And I just can't realtor per realtor educate hour on the phone, but I will help.
She will
any-
try.
I will try if they're really showing interest. I mean, I have like, you know, really taken the time in the car where if I'm traveling in between appointments, I'm like, I'm gonna snap back on with him or her and give them 45 minutes to bring them up to speed. Because you know how hard this business can be or how easy it can be. And how you educate your buyers and sellers and knowing that you're gonna, I don't know how it works here. Can you be on both ends at any point or so there's a certain people just say, I'm just a buyer and agent.
Yeah, we can be on both sides.
You can be on both sides. So don't take one side or the other and make it too heavy. Get them right here. And, you know, talk to the sellers and, like, when I say to a seller, I'm not getting that hard rock, that was just last week. I said, okay, then what you're saying is that, you can't live there and take showers and do laundry and all that. Can you put the missus on the phone? And he's like, no, I was figure out how to do the test. So sometimes what they're saying, they're just angry about everything. Don't take it personally, get educated and know the answers or get them to somebody.
You guys were talking about how you can't disturb like a drainage field. You can't do anything with a drainage field.
Cause it's
repair
pipes.
it.
Wait a minute.
Oh.
Listen to the question.
I have a friend who has a conventional septic system, probably like back in the 80s.
Okay.
Isn't there a thing like for the drainage field, if it gets a little clogged, can't you just take one of those thingies on it? Thank you.
Not any longer. The terror lifting has been banned. The only methodology that DEP will allow to be done is high pressure cleaning of the absorption area. So you either go through the D box with a snake and you blow everything out and you bring it all back and suck it out with a vacuum truck, or you dig open the ends of the lines, make a big pit, pull it all out there and
This
seal
isn't
it back
the
up.
cell.
You can't dig it up like you can a
No.
sand mound
No,
and like redo it?
no.
Why? Why can't you go with a
Absorption
sand mound and not-
regulation.
DEP regs forbid you to make any alterations to a septic system without a permit. DEP further goes to say any conventional system like you're talking about cannot be added to without a permit. Then DEP tells the SEOs, you better damn well be sure you're doing it right, or we're going to take your license away.
But you have to have a permit also to do a sand mound. If you
Yes.
wanna-
This is where you get somebody like me, who's willing to say, hey, where are you? What township?
To be in West Pennsboro.
West Pennsboro. Hey, Vince, Elbel, I'm going to do something over here. Don't come around.
It's not that they allow you to do things that aren't on reg, but there's exceptions to every rule. What you should not worry about is that you have liaisons for that. You've got so many other parts of the system, you know what I mean, if it comes to that. And as you become educated, but I wanted to talk about this enzyme dosing and jetting. Do you know how like the secret's in the sauce and you could like stand there and make sauce? The secret's in the jetting. He is an expert jetter because of a previous industry that he worked in. He knows how to fire water, direct it, and mix that cocktail up to regurgitate. Very few people can do it. And he's taught a few people and they still can't do it right.
What do you mean
So-
about jetting?
It's
High
high pressure
water
washing,
blasting.
high pressure wash.
I like to clear something.
For example, the inspection that I did this week, when their pump went out, they left it go too long. There was sludge in T1, sludge in T2, and sludge up over the block and clear up to the top at one point. Probably blew the lids off of T1 and T2 since they have plastic lids and that one didn't. And there was sludge everywhere. If somebody would have just taken the time to even grab a garden hose and rinse all of that out and vacuum that, we may not have had a failed system. Instead, they just left all the sludge lay there. And it just kept going through. People bought without inspection. Now they're getting military, they gotta sell quick and get out of there within a year. And they gotta do an extensive amount of work that could have been completely avoided by taking a garden hose even on your own and rinsing that and vacuuming. Well, you'd have to have a vacuum truck there, but they left a mess. So it's just maintenance.
All right, Mom. I think Justin's getting a
think
little twitchy.
No, I'm good.
He doesn't want to have to take the time to explain this all because he's not an expert like Royce is, you know, or like.
Yeah,
like some of the
that's
people.
a real badge of honor. I know my shit.
Well, if I handed a stack of paperwork and told you how to close out a house, you'd be like, what am I signing?
This is one of the most important systems that we deal with. It's one of the most expensive systems that you could have fail on a property. That's why it's important to take this time to learn about the problems and the solutions in the processes. So want to thank the Jeffersons for coming out and taking some time to educate us. If you want the continuing ed credits, grab that
Form
form,
at the
fill
back
it
of the
out
room.
and take care of it. If you want to be able to call on them as a resource to advocate for you or your clients, sign up to become a member of PowerUp.
No, we'll do that without you being a member of Power.
Well,
But you just don't have the access to all the other even smarter people.
$40 to be a member of PowerUp, $50 if you want the continuing education credits without the membership.
Thank you.
$0 if you got no credit.
Yep.
Right.
You're just
Come
on
on,
the
your
course.
for the fun.
That's great. All right. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate you. Have a great afternoon.
I'll be right back.